Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow and welcome back to Palworld. Today I've got some more tips and tricks, important stuff to know, focused on base and PAL related things this time. A lot of this of course is stuff that's never really going to be explained to you. It's likely you just won't know about it all. So with that said, let's just get started. So here I am in a breeding base. These are definitely worth the effort to set up. And obviously a key point to this is PAL condensing. The idea of taking one PAL and raising the power of it by fueling other PALs into it. Different PALs come with different partner skills, right? As you level them up here and increase their stars, their ranks, you will increase the level of their partner skills. In the case of Vixie here, sometimes they dig up items from the ground when you assign them to a ranch. That's really easy. You just take the PAL and put it at the base, and as long as you've got a ranch set up of some kind, it will actually work out what it needs to do and go graze. Whatever it finds, as long as you've got some suitable transporter PALs set up, like these Wumpos, or the fantastic Anubis, which is doing exactly that, it'll just be picked up and gathered and put into different storage, whatever's relevant, the right kind. The thing about this partner skill in particular though, dig here, is it's going to be digging up and finding you different items. And as you raise the overall level of a Vixie, you level the dig here skill to level 4, and it can even go up to level 5, at which point it begins digging up a new item. You'll start to see that it's finding mega spheres, which isn't necessarily the best sphere in the game, of course, but it's better than your standard PAL sphere. And what we're talking about is an infinite source of both PAL spheres and mega spheres, as well as arrows, and even potential coins, without you ever actually doing anything, just infinitely being farmed for you. So in the case of a Vixie, this is actually a really good thing. To find a Vixie is very easy. The habitat is down here towards the center and sort of a long line in the wooded forest area. And for general breeding, it's not too complicated. You just need to capture a male and female, and then in a base set up a breeding station, the building with the egg at the top. We have full guides on how to actually do breeding and using cakes and all that stuff, but assuming you understand the basics, you're going to be able to use these two to breed eggs, bring the eggs to an incubator and quickly complete that process, and boom, we have yet another Vixie. With the Vixies then we can go to a condenser, we can choose our target PAL, in the case the one that we've been leveling up here, and then we just fuel other Vixies into it to power that up. We only need to reach 3 stars to actually do this. You don't need all the way to rank 4, although obviously that'd be ideal. So to reach the level 4 dig here skill, you'll need a total of 53 Vixie total to power one specific Vixie to get it high enough if you're starting from scratch. With that powered up Vixie, we can go into the PAL box, put it into the PALs at the base, and let it go do its thing. Like I said, if you have different transporters ready and set up, they'll pick up anything that it finds and bring it to a suitable storage. So whenever I feel like coming back to this breeding hub, I can check what they've collected, which is so far 52 regular PAL spheres, nearly 70 arrows, 12 megasphere, and even some gold coin. From doing this once though, I'll never really have to worry about this again. I can just come back to the base and see what's been collected for me. Having an infinite source of megaspheres though is certainly a handy thing, and the sooner you do something like this, the better. On the other hand, there is another PAL that's fantastic for putting on the ranch, for generating a resource that you will actually just sell for gold. We're talking about high quality cloth. Now obviously this is involved with the armor and so on, but if you literally just sell it for gold, it is actually a very good source of it, and we're talking about an infinite supply because we're just putting a PAL on ranch and forgetting about it, coming and collecting it, selling it whenever we want. The PAL in question here is the Siblex, this sort of floaty moth PAL, and as it's grazing, it will just find and generate this cloth. Again, just like the other setup with a proper breeding base, you have transporters to come pick it up, put it away, and you can collect it whenever you want. What's great about this one compared to the other one is that you technically don't need to upgrade it. It's the partner skill Silk Maker that is causing this sometimes produce high quality cloth when you assign it to a ranch, but if you were to take it to the condenser and power it up in the way we've just shown, it would just raise the level of this effect and make it more likely to happen. So I do think it is worth it if you set up a breeder situation to actually power this up, because then you'll be getting more high quality cloth and just more to sell if you need it. Either way, the basic one's already produced 22 for me, so let's go sell that. You just need a merchant. I have one in sort of my main hub base here, wandering merchant. So let's sell all 22 of them. We'll get 880 gold coin in exchange. At this point, I've not actually done anything. All I did is set a base level PAL to the ranch, forget about it, come back, collect whenever I felt like it. So to get yourself your own Siblex, you're going to need to come to the northwestern sort of main frosty island island, but it spawns all over the place at day or night, it doesn't matter. Now, one thing I'd definitely be remiss if I didn't actually mention after talking about ranch pal setups is a specific passive skill. Now, pals come with different passive skills. It's kind of RNG. There's loads of different ways you can get them, but there is one passive skill called Artisan that you might think is important. Work speed plus 50%. This is obviously very good to what it actually applies to, but it doesn't apply to these two main concepts we've just talked about. So in regards to actually breeding, work speed isn't actually going to increase how fast they breed and therefore how many eggs you actually collect. And the same thing applies to a ranch where, say, we've got these two grazing, they're both generating me items that are being collected. That's awesome. But if they had the artisan skill, you might imagine that would increase their speed by 50%. It'd be awesome if that were true, but it just isn't. As good as artisan and work speed is for the things it applies to, it does not actually affect this at all. So a little PSA if you didn't know that. Next, a really useful tip in regards to food and perishing food. Whatever it is you're relying on to eat, or maybe you've got in storage like this bread, you can see it's got its timer, it's going down, perishable food, right? There is kind of a way to deal with this, a mechanic in game that they expect you to use, which is storage containers meant to help perishable food last a lot longer, like refrigerators here. This is obviously a really valuable thing to have in a proper farm setup where you're generating lots of food resources you don't want to just waste, but there is a way to kind of stop this timer, which is a bit silly, but definitely usable, and why not while you can, right? What you'll need to do though is make sure this setting is actually on in your world. So you need to go back to the main menu, choose your world and choose change world settings. Then under custom settings, you'll need to change the death penalty setting here. Obviously it goes from no drops at all, keep everything when you die, to the very extreme drop all items and all pals on team. Why we actually want this effect on is because it's going to generate a bag that stays forever. So the minimum effect and least invasive version of this is drop all items except equipment. So that's what you want to turn on. The easiest way to die is pretty much just open up the menu and go to respawn. It will warn you that the death penalty thing you just set up is in effect. So obviously you want to do this with intention. But let's say over here where I've got all my storage, I'm going to intentionally die. And there's that bag that's just spawned at my body. We'll need to respawn and actually find a fast travel point, which is, you should be right where you spawn. I'll head over back to my base. And here it is. Here is this special bag that is now just permanently there. As you can see, I've got some wheat and I've got some red berries in there. And they have their timer of 40 minutes and 10 minutes. But while they're in that bag, they're actually not perishing. The timer isn't going down. It's at a complete standstill. So if I take, say, this wheat out, you can see the timer starts again and it begins perishing. Now, the downside of this is I can't actually put anything back into this death chest, this bag. So you want to make sure that when you do this respawning, all the food that you're planning on actually stopping the timer on so that it can, never perish, you want to make sure you respawn with. So I can just happily grab everything I had on me at the time, no problem. But I'll leave those berries in there so they're literally never going to perish. If you do not yet have a refrigerator set up and all the faff with that, or you just want to set up like a death bag full of food in every base you have, this is entirely possible. And it's definitely very abusable. So if you didn't know about that, maybe consider it for your own food storage. The next base-based tip has to do with your pal box itself. While the initial massive storage you start with is fantastic, it obviously becomes less and less so as you get further into the game. Especially as I've been showing in this video, you start breeding different pals for different purposes, or do any condensing. The condenser requires so many copies of that one pal to get those ranks up. Once you've already been collecting the many different pals of the game, the space does begin to get filled up faster and faster, and 500, as good as that is to start with, it's not enough. So there's a simple trick to get some extra pal storage in, and it's obviously intended by the devs. It's found in the technology tree. It's called the viewing cage, and it just requires some wood, stone, and paldium fragments to actually craft. You should be able to make a bunch of them if you need to. It works though much like a box for pals would. In this case, those inside can't battle or help with any production, sure, but they also aren't going to starve or need anything in there. Each viewing platform can hold 40 pals at once. There's 40 slots, working as a literal pal storage box whenever you need it. It is kind of funny looking at them crammed in there. There is a big disclaimer I should make for this tip though. This only works in solo play or if you're using friend-hosted servers. You can't do this on dedicated multiplayer servers because, well, it just doesn't exist as an option there. I guess the idea is it would be too much on the server, like the processing power that it would require to spawn in that many pals in the world. If tons of people are doing it all at once, maybe it'd be a bad idea. But if you are playing on a server you've got set up with friends, or just solo in your private one, then it will work fantastic as an extra bit of storage. For our final thing for this video, it's a bit of a silly one. As you can see, I'm king of the world. I'm top of the mountain. I'm on top of a giant bench-based staircase. It's just the fact that you can build pretty much anything as long as it has a quote-unquote foundation, a structure. It's connected to the floor. Technically, my spiral staircase tower thing is connected to the actual proper base for the breeding that I've got set up down there, that I've just built benches sort of spiraling up in an infinite staircase situation. And because technically one of these benches is touching the ground, I can do that forever. Of course, there's different stuff you could use to make a ridiculous tower or whatever kind of structure you want, but the furniture tab works great. There's all kinds of stuff that you can build out of here. Wooden benches are just the most reliable, straightforward way. You could use the carpets to create floors, or pipes and otherwise to create different pathways. This is just an obvious, simple example of what is possible with the silly building in this game. I was inspired to talk about this by a Twitter clip I saw. It's got like 5 million views by the user Asahaka315, who is saying that only up is possible in Palworld. Only up is a funny game where you're just kind of climbing random stuff, debris into the sky. It's quite difficult and very frustrating when you fall. Well, if you want that in Palworld, I guess it's possible using whatever the hell structure, furniture you want to make. It's fun that you can do something like this, but it can also be useful if you do want to create something in kind of a launch pad situation. Maybe create yourself a tower so that you can glide off it to move around before you have reliable flying pals or whatever. It's going to be interesting seeing what weird stuff people create in this game. And I love that stupid stuff like this is possible. It's not exactly hard to climb because in the case of a bench, you just get a little step up. It sort of forces you up a single level, and that's also how you build it. You place each bench on top of the next one, then stand on it, then place the next one, and so on and so forth. Definitely make sure that it's within range of your base though, so that your pals can actually help you build it rather than you do it slowly yourself. But as you can see, it's honestly not that complicated. Pretty cool. But there you have it, just a few interesting and useful tips around bases and building, different purposes for say some of your workers, and tricks you can do for infinite storage of food and all that good stuff. If you guys have any interesting weird tips along this nature, then drop it in the comments, you might help someone, and maybe we'll come back and talk about it in the future. For now though, thank you for watching and we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.